We have a passionate technocrat, Mr. Joseph Pellisery, to address us. Friends, the goal of TMA this year is revisioning TMA at 50 or TMA in the year 2040. And we have a three-pronged strategy towards this goal. The first being revisiting our vision and mission. And under the leadership of CITS Anantharaman, we have successfully completed this. The team did a fantastic job. Within 1 month, they were able to finish it. And for the benefit of all the members, our Honorable Secretary, Engineer Francis George, will be delivering this towards the end of this program. The second strategy was through our Let's Chat series. This is basically intellectual giving sessions. We had our first brainstorming session at Velangankunna. It is in a very informal environment. And under the leadership of CIGO Job, we had around 35 participants, and it was well accepted, and a lot of thought process came through there. And finally, the third strategy is through giving back to the society. This is one area where TMA needed a lot of attention, especially after the pandemic. And we started off this year's activities through a free vaccination, COVID free vaccination drive. We also have inaugurated our student chapter. Along with that, we had the TMA Make a Village Startup competition. Basically, we want our student chapters to be job providers instead of job seekers. So this is the whole thought process behind it. And we have many other projects in the coming months. And this is the student chapter is headed by CMA, Madhu AP, and Steve. Friends, organization like TMA has a bigger role to play in creating a positive impact to the society. And this requires strategic planning. Our speaker, Mr. Joseph Pellisery, CIO, Wescom Credit Union, Los Angeles, is a technology expert. And he has traveled across the globe, worked with some of the finest organizations. A friend of Honorable Secretary Engineer Francis. He has spent a lot of time studying about TMA from our website and interacting with Francis. And this evening, he's going to create a spark in us through his topic, strategic planning for service organizations. So welcome, Mr. Joseph, and over to you.
Thank you, President Vinod Manila, for the kind words and the warm introduction. Good evening to everybody in India, and good day to other folks who may be in other parts of the world like myself. I'm happy, honored, and privileged to be here to discuss the topic of strategy, which, if you think about it, as Vinod mentioned, is an important one, especially the unprecedented times that we're all going through. We all had to pivot to a remote workforce. Me being the CIO, I had the responsibility of transitioning the entire organization. So that was a challenge in itself. And overall, we had to make a lot of adjustments. And so this is the time for us to probably re-strategize, rethink our strategies on how we are going to find innovative ways to service our customers. How are we going to keep our employees and our communities safe? My heart and prayers go out to all the families around the world who've been impacted by COVID, especially in India, Thrissur, Kerala, my home native place. And then I also heard about the incessant rains lately in the news. So condolences to all the families there. So it's a lot going on. So it's a troubling time, but we have a bright future ahead. And that future will be bright if we all huddle together and make it better for us and our communities that we serve. When TMA Secretary Francis George reached out to me to discuss the topic and the opportunity to present about strategy, I was super proud. First, as Vinod mentioned, I looked up your website and all of the activities and the seminars, how you're enabling the youth and the students with your experience, your leadership, the management experience that you're showering on all the citizens of Thrissur. So that in itself is amazing. So I was super proud that an organization like TMA has been in place for more than 31 years and serving our community. So congratulations to all past and present TMA leaders for going above and beyond, taking time out of your busy schedule and being the leaders, because in today's society, we have to do more. We have to be there for the communities that we serve, as I mentioned earlier. And with that, let's dive into the topic for today, which is about strategy for service organizations. Of course, we don't have a liberty of a lot of time, but as Vinod mentioned, we want to spark some ideas about strategy. So each one of you are probably engaged in strategic conversations or strategic planning for your respective organizations. So now what we could do today in the next 30 to 35 minutes is generate some ideas. And what I'm going to do is talk about these ideas with the context of some of the organizations that I've learned about, some of the organizations that I personally have worked for, so that when we discuss these topics, it's not just abstract, it's also contextual. So with that, let me share my slide. Francis, can I go ahead, Vinod, can I go ahead and share my slide now?
Sure.
Yeah, very good. Give me a minute. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Awesome, very good. So first, what is strategy? Strategy means a lot and maybe different to different people. So there's a couple of definitions. The first one is from Michael Porter. He is a renowned Harvard professor from the Harvard Business School. And his definition is an action-packed definition, which says strategy is a set of long-term choices we make to distinguish ourselves from our competitors. And so there's a keywords long-term. So, Vinod, I heard you about your TMA vision for the next 30 years, 40 years, so right on. That's exactly how we need to think about strategy. And strategy is a set of choices we make to distinguish ourselves from our competitors. So what is our unique value proposition? How are we gonna make sure, are we focusing on low cost? Are we focusing on innovation? Or are we focusing on some other aspects that will give us a competitive advantage? And strategy, and when we talk about strategy here, at least from the definitions, we're talking about a corporate strategy. Strategy can exist at different levels depending on the size of the organization. Like when I was part of Bank of America for close to 15 years, we had a marketing strategy. We had a technology strategy. We had business strategies for all the products and financial services. And then on top of that, we had the corporate strategy. So, but if the organization is not as huge as Bank of America, where I'm now part of Wescom, our focus is a little different. We are California focused as opposed to Bank of America that is global and national focused. So we'll get into those aspects about strategy in the next slides. The next one is from Ellie Pidert. She was an executive at Medtronic, which is a healthcare technology company. And she is direct to the point with a sense of humor. She says it's a fancy word for coming up with a long-term plan and putting it into action. I always believe good, successful leaders are not just good at planning a strategy, but they're also good at executing a strategy. And Ellie puts that point across in a very simple and straightforward fashion. So there's a couple of definitions of strategy to get us started. So again, think about your organization, think about the company that you're associated with, and how you strategize so that we can spark those ideas together. The next slide here is my personal favorite, and my kids love this slide as well. It says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And this is from Mike Tyson. And I love this. Mike Tyson was my all-time favorite boxer. When I grew up watching him. I even named my pet after Tyson, by the way. And as you know, Mike Tyson, he's left a legacy. There were boxers who were taller than him, had way more reach than him, and they had a plan. They had a plan to come in and knock out Mike Tyson. But Tyson, on the other hand, had a different plan. He with his left hooks, with his jabs, with his combination, he figured out a way to knock out the biggest and the best. And if you look at it, I named this slide a Kodak moment. And because it's a good segue into my next slide, which is about Kodak. So this is a slide where you're seeing the picture where the Kodak headquarters was demolished. And Kodak, Eastman Kodak, was one of the leading companies in the analog film business. And Kodak had a very good strategy, but they did not pause and readjust their strategy. And Sony, Canon, and other companies took over the digital revolution in the digital camera space, and Kodak was left behind. Now, what an interesting fact here is, an engineer in Kodak had invented the digital camera back in 1975. But the management thought that the digital camera would negatively impede the film business that Kodak was leading in. So this is another angle about strategy, is have to be, you're to come up with a good strategy, you have to be good at executing it, and then you have to be diligent about revisiting and adjusting your strategy as you navigate your company and organization. So this one is about the why, the essence of strategy. Sidney Lumet was a very famous director here in Hollywood, made many movies, and he wrote a book about making movies as well. And he asked this question: what makes a movie a great movie? He was in constant awe and passionate about answering that question. And his answer was, a movie becomes a great movie if everyone in the team is making the same movie. Now think about it. Think about what a powerful statement that is. So what his thought is, the entire team, the director, of course, has the vision. The producer is supporting from the finance and other aspects. The actor, the editor, the lyricist, the songwriter, the cameraman, the stuntman, do they all understand the vision of the movie? So my all-time favorite Bollywood movie is Sholay, and everybody loves Sholay. My all-time favorite Malayalam movie is Nadodi Kata, and Mohanlal and Srinivas did an amazing job there. Now, how did those movies become a great movie? Why is that memorable? Why do we always talk about those movies? It's because probably the team came together, understood the story that movie was trying to share with all of us, And with everybody added to the director's vision, right? So the actor comes and says, hey, can I do this? Can I do it in a different way? I think this would be better. There will be multiple takes. So there's passion in the whole story making business. And that is true for strategy. If you have a good strategy, how do you ensure that that strategy is communicated to everybody in the organization? Again, it's a challenge. It's not easy. Bank of America, going back to my previous experience, 250,000 employees. And there are other big organizations in India and all over the world. How do you make sure that the strategy is communicated to your managers, to your individual contributors, to your leadership across multiple business organizations? And how do they all align their respective strategies to the overall strategy of the organization, of the company? And so that is the essence of this. Are we all delivering towards the same strategy, the common goal? Are we all making the same movie? So ask that question when you're discussing strategy with your leadership team and the broader organization. Before we get into formulating and developing a strategy, organizations, I recommend, come up with their mission, vision, and purpose. And so here's a few. I'm not going to go through each one of them, but what was the vision for Microsoft when they first started, for Google? How, and they're both in the software business, but look at how Google is positioning. Google is about organizing the world's information. Now, Microsoft also is about information technology in the software development space. And Microsoft's overall mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. So each organization, even though there's overlap, are positioning themselves to make sure that they have a unique value proposition and have a competitive edge in the space that they're working towards. And Disney, of course, is a big organization. Disney is into movies. Disney has theme parks, sports, entertainment, all around making sure they're the world's leading producers and providers of entertainment and information. So I know that recently TMA refreshed your mission and vision. So kudos to you and your team. I think that's an important aspect before you formulate your strategy. The next one is, what are some of the tools available to come up with a strategy? Now, this is a tool. There are many tools out there. One tool that I personally like is the SWOT analysis. It's essentially very simple. You jot down your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities that you have, and the threats. And I'll explain this with the context of Tesla. Everybody knows Tesla and how they've become a big player in the car manufacturing business. So when you document this, it becomes easier for you to develop your strategy because you're basing it on your strengths, you're basing it on the opportunities you have. I'll go to the next slide to kind of explain this. I know you guys came up with the vision and mission. So have you utilized tools like SWOT analysis?
Not directly.
Yes. What we've done is...
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So we did visit all the past presidents and some senior members and worked out the SWOT analysis. We did and discussed it internally. And then based on that, we have put some thought process for the vision and mission.
Very good. Excellent. That is the way to do. You guys are ahead of the game. So let's think about Tesla. And I believe Tesla sat down, Elon Musk, with his infinite wisdom, and thought about how should we enter the car manufacturing business. So being in the US, Toyota and Honda were the leading are still are the leading manufacturers of the economy models. So the Toyota Camry, the Honda Civic, which is comparable to the Honda City. Those were the leading cars that everybody sought after. And what Tesla realized is, if we enter the car manufacturing business and enter into the space that Toyota and Honda are killing it, it's going to be detrimental to Tesla's vision and entry point. So instead of entering that space, Tesla said, we're going to enter the luxury brand, the luxury market. We're going to go after the luxury customers. And why did Tesla do that? Because Tesla is innovating with electric cars. So it's new technology, there's batteries, there's charging, there's so many new chips required. So there's a cost for innovation. So Tesla's strategy was to focus on the luxury brand, pass that cost of innovation to the more affluent customers, and then transition. So if you look at this roadmap, so Tesla was formed somewhere in 2003, 2004. They started rolling out their cars somewhere in 2009. And if you look at it, they started with the high-end luxury electric cars, and then they moved on to the more economy and affordable cars like the Model 3, and they're coming up with the Model Y. And now they're also branching into other types of vehicles like the Tesla truck. They already came up with the Model X, which is an SUV that seats 7 passengers. So another important aspect about strategy is you cannot service all customers at the same time. It's relatively difficult. Now, if a company figures it out, that's awesome. But it's relatively difficult to make all your customers happy, all your customer segments happy. So Tesla's, probably when Tesla did the SWOT analysis or an equivalent tool that they chose, it was very clear that in the threat section, if I go back to the slide here, in the threat section, it was Toyota and Honda. The opportunity was the new innovation and saving price on gas. The strength was it's going to be electric, it's going to be environment friendly, and their weaknesses was it's going to be expensive. So thinking about your organization, thinking about your company, thinking about your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats will clear your minds to come up with a strategy that will position you well. Now, based on my personal experience, when I started thinking about strategy, and being part of the financial services organization, I would focus a lot on customers. That's how I started. It was about customer growth. It was about customer engagement, and most importantly, about the customer experience. So a friend joked around with me, Joseph, you're all about customer, customer, customer. And we've heard customer is God, the customer is right, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's a good strategy, but at the end of the day, if you think about the people strategy, we also need to focus on our employees. We also need to focus on the communities that we serve. So when we talk about the people strategy and we want to uplift the customer experience like Starbucks did, Starbucks people strategy would say, we're going to focus on our customers, we're going to focus on our employees, we're going to focus on our partners, and we're going to focus on our communities. And I've come to believe this holistic strategy. And very recently at Wescom, the leadership team, and we sat down together, and we are in the process of adjusting our strategy now to be, in addition to being customer focused, we are also going to be team focused, which is our employees, and we are also going to be communities focused. And it's not that we were not already taking care of our employees. It is not that we were already taking care of our communities, but we want to make sure that we have an emphasis, our mission, our strategic goals are aligned so that the broader organization. So in a technology, if there are technologists on this call, my philosophy about technology is a good technology would enable business value. A good technology would solve business problems. You could bring the best innovation from Silicon Valley or from anywhere in the world, but if that technology does not help the business become profitable or accomplish the business goals, then that investment has not hit the mark. And if you think about strategy, some companies focus on innovation, like Apple. Some organizations focus on operational efficiency. And some companies like Wescom would focus, and most financial service organizations would focus on the customer service or the member service. Now, it's not that the companies do not have any level of work involved in those three broad areas. So you become a good company. But if you want to become a market leader, truly a leader, you have to exceed in one theme of strategy. And so in this people strategy, this is a powerful, you all know how successful Starbucks is. There's some passionate stories of Starbucks, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to sit down and talk about it at a later time. So this slide is about the people strategy and how you could incorporate that for your respective organization. And then when it comes to an organization like TMA, there's a lot of community focus. So this is a word cloud about if you're involved with the communities like yourself in Thrissur and other local parts of Kerala, how volunteering, charity, human assistance. And now if you add the pandemic and COVID into the mix, you have to think about do families have the basic necessities? I know TMA is in the space of management, but think about a child who's lost either both parents or one parent to the pandemic. How does an organization like TMA, while fostering the concepts of management, while instilling entrepreneurial skills, also think about the basic building blocks? And once you have the basic building blocks in place, once you have put the trust and confidence, then it's easier for that individual, for that child, for that youth to absorb management skills and take it to the next level. So it's, as you mentioned earlier, it's a challenging time. It's for us to ponder and think about how we're gonna make a difference and also do the right thing at the end of the day for the communities that we serve. And the good news is there are organizations all around the world that came out. They realized that we have to do more for our communities. And so here's an example where Giorgio Armani did the right thing in Rome and Milan for hospitals. U-Haul gave out free self-storage here in the US, and Adobe gave out free software for higher education in K-12 all over the world. So I believe the opportunities for an organization like TMA to be the catalyst and channel the energy from these big organizations for creating better human beings, for creating the future managers and leaders of Kerala and India is a very good opportunist time right now. So with that, how are we doing on time? Is about 30 minutes, 35 minutes?
Yeah, you can go on for another 10, 15 minutes. That's fine.
Yeah. So I don't have a lot of slides, but we can go into the Q&A after this. I wanted to leave you guys with one thought, which is a powerful thought, which is we cannot predict the future, but we can create it with a brilliant strategy. And let's ponder about that. Is what TMA is going to do for the communities in Thrissur, how TMA is going to shape the future of Thrissur and maybe other locations and cities around Thrissur is with that brilliant strategy. It is all of you, the leaders on this call, past and present members of TMA are going to come together and deliver that strategy for Thrissur. So those are high-level topics. Hopefully that sparked some ideas and thoughts. Some may be ideas that you've already leveraged. Some could be ideas that you've already working on, or maybe it's a good time for us to ponder and talk about it. So with that was the gist of the slides that I planned for 30 to 35 minutes. Vinod and Francis, if you're okay, I'll turn it back to you and we can open it up for Q&A and make it a little bit more interactive and talk about strategy.
Thank you, Joseph. I think what a powerful way to end. We cannot predict the future, but we can create it with a brilliant strategy. That is very, very powerful. And it's something like this that we are trying to do for TMA with a Vision 2040. And we are also going to have a session called Revisioning Thrissur 2040. So first we thought let the vision for TMA be ready, and then we will go to the next phase of it. And TMA, I'm sure, with this powerful community of members we have, can create a brilliant future for Thrissur. So thank you, Joseph, on that note. And you also rightly touched upon this point on Kodak, where an employee, there's a feeble voice saying that there is a future for that electric camera, but somehow the legacy and the success on which they were sitting couldn't see those voices. So here again, to the members here, we are starting a survey of each of our programs. Okay, we are starting with this session. So if you go to the chat box, there is a survey link. Please press the survey link and rate the program. We believe there is scope to improve and your voice matters. So please, as the Q&A session is going on, to take the time and liberty to go there, click on the link, and then give your feedback. Now, the session is open for Q&A. Please go ahead. You can unmute and ask the question.
Yeah, while we tee up for questions, that's a very important point that you made. If someone had paid attention to that engineer in Kodak, and so and that idea about service, there's so many thoughts that triggered when you mentioned that, and again, I feel that you guys are doing all the right things. There was an episode in my history where we sent out a survey and we had an idea and we tried to discuss all the ideas. And in one case, it was an engineer like Kodak had a brilliant idea at Bank of America, and we did not follow through with the right level of discussion and attention. But fortunately, that was the initial part, but fortunately, that was raised in one of my town halls, and we got to it and we made sure that we had the right level of discussion and justice for that idea. And that idea became a good idea and eventually was patented for Bank of America. So, so it's about listening to your team. It's about adjusting your strategy and making sure that you bring your team along with you. And that's when a company becomes a great company. An organization becomes a great organization. So we'll see if there's any questions coming our way.
Yes.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Joseph. Hello.
Yeah, please
Hello,
go ahead.
how are you?
Yeah, Mr. Joseph, your session was wonderful and very, very effective. And thanks a lot for that. I am Gio, a member of TMA. So you told that it is about the strategies about long-term goals and long-term plans. So what I'm asking is how do you re-strategize or making your strategies in a long term? We are living in a digital technology era. So when it is constantly changing, which is rapidly changing, how do you get along with the re-strategizing your plans?
That's an excellent question, and that's what I'm dealing with. And digital transformation, digital disruption means it's a very passionate, being a technologist, being a CIO, it's a very passionate topic of mine. It's something that we focus on. So your question is, when there's constant innovation and constant disruption going on, how can you come up with a 3-year strategy? How can you come up with a 5-year strategy? So I'll go back to my personal example. I'm currently part of Wescom Credit Union. For those who don't know Wescom is a $5.5 billion assets under management, compared to the big banks here in California, which is like Bank of America and Chase, Geo, in trillions of dollars. Bank of America is $1.5 trillion assets under management. Chase is close to 2.6, somewhere on that mark. And Wescom has to compete with these big banks in California. And the digital transformation that is happening at Bank of America, Chase, and some of the other big banks, they have a lot of money power to invest in technology. Some of the annual technology investments is north of $4 or $5 billion. So I have a task at hand to provide the digital experience for the Wescom customers and members in a way where it is competitive with the big banks. Now, the technology is changing, Gio, but the strategy may not be changing. So if you think about, our strategy is member focused, which is member growth. So you have to focus on growth, responsible growth, member engagement, and the member experience. So you may have a set of 3 tools, digital tools, as an example, that you're currently leveraging to deliver those 3 strategic objectives. Now, if there's a new capability that's coming in, so for example, the pandemic came in, we had to make sure that when customers walk into our physical branches, they are safe. Now customers wanted to interact with us virtually, so we pivoted to video banking. So in the disruption, technologies like Zoom, technologies like time trade with integration into the Microsoft ecosystem or to the Apple iOS ecosystem. So we had to make all those integrations. So yes, the technology was a disruptor, but organizations like Wescom and many more around the globe had to adopt those technology disruptions and add it to your suite of tools and capabilities and deliver the strategy that you embarked on a year ago, 2 years ago, to deliver those strategic goals. So to be in tune with the industry and adopting new tools, new digital capabilities in a way where it's aligned to the overall objectives of the organization. So that's one example. And there's other disruptions, like in the space of payments. There's blockchain, there's cryptocurrency. Now, if you ask the regulators in the US, there's not a lot of support on crypto. But if you talk to the customers and the members, they want to invest in crypto. So what does the financial services organization do? Is how do you take that digital disruption and align it to the organization strategy to deliver, again, the strategic objectives of member growth, customer market share, customer engagement, and customer experience. So that's how we are thinking about it. We're gonna absorb, we're gonna pick and choose, we're gonna time it, we're gonna make sure that we have support of the regulators, and most importantly, whatever investments we'll make in this digital evolution will be and should be aligned to the overall strategic objectives of the organization. Does that help, Gio?
Yeah. So as we need to change the methodologies according to the digital technology changes. So that you mean to say that our plans would not be changed, but our methods would be changed.
Exactly. Exactly.
And we should be totally equipped to adapt the technology changes.
Exactly. You got it. Like if you're in the organization and you're offering a low price product, and your mission and vision is to provide a low price product like Walmart, you're going to make sure that you use all of the digital tools to deliver that low price product. If you're in the business of innovation like Apple, you're going to use digital disruption to make sure that you're constantly innovating for your customers. And if you're an organization like Wescom or Bank of America or Chase or HDFC, you would be in the financial services business. You're going to use that to make sure that you're delivering the ultimate customer service.
Okay,
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Next question, please.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Can you hear?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is my name is Dr. Shantakumar. It was a very good speech and very informative. And like you said, like Kodak, there are many other companies in India and everyone like HMV.
Shantakumar, we lost you. Shantakumar, we lost you. Can you just repeat the last part again? We just lost you in between. There's a network issue. Can you just repeat it?
Yeah, there were many other companies like Kodak, both abroad in India, like HMV, your Ambassador, your Fiat, or your Lambretta, and those companies, they all missed the bus because they didn't adapt according to the change in the technologies, and they were not nimble enough. Now, my question to you is that now Google has come with this Google Pay, and Google has all the information of its clients. And tomorrow, Google can give this information to other bankers and others. So according to you, what will be the future of the banking industry? Will this brick and mortar banks, will they be existing at all? So what strategy they can make when the whole business might be wiped out, or they will no more exist when people like Google and other companies come and take away their business? That is my question, first question. Second question is, I've read somewhere that by 2030, whatever jobs are available now today, or whatever things you do today will not be there at all. So how do you strategize when that is going to be the future scenario?
Excellent. Oh my God, those are two excellent questions. I'm gonna make sure I do justice to both of them. So the first one is about the physical branches for a financial institution. If organizations like Google and Amazon start offering financial or banking services. So this is a constant conversation at Wescom, by the way, Dr. Santakumar, is the old notion was you open a branch and they will come. And when I say they, I mean the customers and the members. And with the neobanks out there, you don't need a physical branch. You can open an account. You can transact all your financial services online. And if you think about the customer segments, the millennials, the Gen Z, the Gen X, and the Gen Y, they're all on their phone. They're all on their apps and gadgets, and they probably don't walk into a branch unless they're forced to. At the same time, we call it the traditionalists, the baby boomers. who even after offering a lot of promotions, they still choose to walk into the branch. So just depositing a check, we have snap deposit, we all save money and time if somebody chooses that option. But there are customer segments who prefer to walk into the branch. So the strategy at Wescom is to offer the customers to interact with us using their choice of channel. So that's the concept of omni-channel. So if you want to interact with us digitally, you can. If you want to walk into a branch, you can. If you want to call into a contact center, you can. If you want to do video banking, you can. So our philosophy is that we are going to invest in all channels. That doesn't mean that we're going to invest any less in digital, because, as I said, the new generation is savvy and well versed. And then even everybody has a unique personality, and even in the new generation, there are individuals who like the people interaction. I mean, think about our general personalities. We're all different. Some are more outgoing, some are more or relatively less social. So it all depends on what your personality is and how you want to interact, how much time do you have. So our strategy right now is to continue to invest in branches, physical branches, at the same time ramp up our investment in digital. And if companies like Google and Amazon, so as I said, we're already competing with the Bank of Americas and the Chases. They're like Google and Amazon in the financial services space for us. But if we're going to make sure that our strategy, which is the Wescom experience or the customer experience that I talked about, is front and center. And we're going to deliver that experience and make it personable. Every interaction, think about the power of if you make every interaction personable and memorable, then irrespective of what channel you're interacting with, there's going to be that level of trust. When you're talking about a financial services partner, and for the question about physical branches, customers bank with us because they trust us, because they know we're going to keep their money safe. We're going to make sure that everything is insured. We're going to do everything that we can to protect their assets. Now, if they're investing in equities and bonds and mutual funds in our investment arm versus CDs and putting cash into our deposit accounts. So the reason they interact with us is because of that level of trust and confidence that we're going to take care of them. So, what in the future, I expect, at least in the next 20 years, 20 to 30 years, physical branches are going to be play, and it also depends on the demographics, like in India versus the US versus Europe, Australia, New Zealand. The time may vary on how the importance of physical branches kind of phase in and phase out. But I think everybody should have the option and the privilege to interact with their financial services using their channel of choice.
Joseph,
The second question.
Yeah, shall I interrupt? I want to ask, because I was not concerned about the physical existence of the branch. But say, suppose if you are collecting, you are lending money by accepting deposits.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Google knows that how much money each person has, and he can say that he can go to another bank and offer them that this fellow is having so much money. And if they offer a higher rate of interest, this money will be pulled out from your bank and will deposit in another one. And and Google become only an intermediary or a facilitator.
Yeah.
So in which case you don't have money at all. Your money and their money will be sucked out by other banks who offer better rates and better terms.
Yeah.
So it's not just a question of physical banks existence or not, branch or existence or not. You don't have any money to lend.
That's right.
Yeah, please go ahead.
And so, Dr. Santakumar, there are organizations and companies already in place in the US who does exactly that. So this is a concept of aggregators. So there are three, at least two major players that I know of. One is a company called Plaid. You may want to look it up, PLAID. The second one is Yodlee. And there's a few other organizations in this space, and they are called asset aggregators. And what these asset aggregators do is exactly that Google concept. They are the central place you can go to, and you can aggregate all your accounts with Chase, with Bank of America. And I don't know if that technology exists in India to look at your accounts across HDFC, ICICI, Standard Chartered, and so forth, so on and so forth. So at least at Bank of America, we are aware using those aggregators. So I don't have the recent numbers, but if you look at the customer base of Bank of America, it was a known fact that $1.7 trillion at that time, this is a few years ago, of the existing customers of Bank of America was with other financial institutions. So that information is available. And then if you do a simple scraping of all the websites on Citi and all these big banks, you also have the rates that each financial services institution offers for a given product. So that information is available, and you have a good point. That information can be leveraged by an automated tool or an organization like Google to make that information and facilitation easier, where you can switch accounts and in a moment's notice. It's like your financial advisor, right? You give them $500,000 and make sure that they give you a 10% return, 20% return on your investment accounts. A similar concept could potentially come into play for your deposit accounts. So essentially what I'm trying to say is those kind of technologies already exist. There are companies already working in that space, and all financial institutions have APIs and physical technology implementation to facilitate that information back and forth. But again, it boils down to the level of trust and confidence that a particular customer and member has with their respective financial services, so that a third party, even though they can facilitate that information, they cannot automatically switch your accounts and take money out of your accounts unless you get to a point where you've authorized them, like an investment account, where you trust your financial advisor. So hopefully that helps. So the second part is if the existence of jobs due to AI, machine learning, and automation, and that is true. We may no longer be required to do the exact same thing that we do today, but we will have time. These tools will create time to focus on bigger and better things, and that's how we evolve as a human race. There are certain things that we did hundreds of years ago. We're not doing those aspects on a day-to-day basis. So assuming positive intent, and of course there's going to be good actors, there's going to be bad actors in any space, but if we can leverage the power of AI, machine learning in a positive way, we're going to not just be about eliminating jobs, but we are going to be in the business of creating jobs that modernize and at the core enable the human race. So that's how I would like to look at it, instead of plainly eliminating jobs due to automation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Joseph. Very good answer.
Thank you, Joseph. We just have time for one last question.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Can I?
Yeah.
Joseph, good evening, and I'm George Paul.
Hello, George.
I've seen your last slide. We cannot predict the future, but we can create it with a brilliant strategy. I don't fully agree with that because all the great organizations, they will develop a capability to look into the future. What I want to know from Joseph is that what are the tools they use, though it cannot be exactly predicted to 100% correctly, but they definitely have that capability to look into the future and evolve some kind of draft strategies. It's not that reactive strategies great organizations do. They will anticipate different scenarios, no? Definitely.
Yes, absolutely. So this is
what I want to know, Joseph, is that what are the latest techniques in which the great organizations look into the future, like a crystal gaze, what people used to say, like zeitgeist, like spirit of time. How do you really assess and anticipate and see what is the future is evolving? What do the organizations do differently now?
That is excellent. So what I've seen is that big organizations, they have created a team of innovators. So for example, in the US, and this is true for a couple of organizations that I've worked for, there is a dedicated team exploring innovation across the globe. Okay. So even a financial services organization have opened up branches in Silicon Valley, in Israel, in Australia, and they are constantly monitoring what level of innovations are coming up. Okay. What also companies are doing is they're not only just exploring the innovation, but they're also investing in innovation. So they want to be the first round of investors investing in good ideas. And this team in a particular organization, if an organization can afford to have employees focused on innovation, those employees and their leadership team then bring ideas into the organization. And they make presentations, they invite vendors, they invite these ideas, they help with implementing proof of concepts, and then determine if that idea is the right idea for the organization to meet the overall goal for the organization. So I've seen that. And then if you cannot afford a big team who's exclusively focused on, because it's time and labor, innovation, then it becomes the responsibility of a technologist like myself, the CIO organization, to constantly explore what's out there, and from time to time bring it to the leadership team, bring it to the executive team, bring it to the management team, and discuss those ideas. A good aspect is, as I mentioned earlier, is cryptocurrency. I'm not sure what the space is and adoption has been in India, but our customers are constantly asking us, "Are you crypto friendly?" And the regulators are watching us if we are saying yes or no to that answer. Hopefully I answered that question. It depends on the size of the organization and how much they can invest in exploring innovation and bringing ideas.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's a good answer.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joseph. Thank you. I think there is a biblical story talking about the David and Goliaths, like, in the whole history of humankind, always there was Davids and there was always Goliaths. So you need to anticipate even in the modern era and even in the future, the Davids can come in the form of technology and disruption. So the organization has to be mindful, maybe in the form of pandemic, anything, it can happen. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that when David wins, that's when history and legacy happens.
That's true.
Thank you. Thank you, Joseph. That is really good. Really good. Now, before the formal vote of thanks, I invite our Honorable Secretary Engineer Francis to briefly present the vision and mission statement, and then go into the formal vote of thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Vinod. Let me share my screen. Is my screen visible?
It's visible, yes.
Okay. So I'll be quick for this one. The timing of this webinar is great. Joseph talked about the strategy and how it ties to the vision and mission of the organization. we happen to redefine the vision and mission of TMA in the context of the purpose of our existence and in the context of the scope of current and future activities of TMA, which aligns with the TMA 2014 vision. 2040 happens to be the 50th year of TMA's existence. That's the borders of 2040. So coming to quickly the vision mission statements. Okay, the old one, vision statement, was a little lame, I would say, in today's context, to create and sustain professionalism in and around Thrissur. We took that, we reviewed that in the context of what we want to do going forward, and we drew up this one after a lot of deliberation, after more than a month's work involving very senior people within TMA. After several rounds of discussions, this is what we drew up: to foster a management ethos that integrates native entrepreneurial energy with managerial excellence to build sustainable world-class organizations. The idea here, by what we mean here by native entrepreneurial energy, is, if you look at India, it's a very diverse country with a lot of different diverse business practices, ethical standards, and value systems. And all these systems have their own advantages. We want to combine those with the modern practices and create world-class organizations. That's the essence of this particular mission. And if you look at the mission statements, the old one was to promote and disseminate useful knowledge in the field of management. And the new one goes a long way beyond that. There are three parts to it. The first part is disseminate knowledge about management among all stakeholders to promote ethical and successful organizations. The second part is serve as a catalyst for the changes that benefit society by engaging with the change enablers across government, industry, and society. And that's briefly what we touched upon earlier. Spark the entrepreneurial and self-starter mindset among the youth to groom high-caliber leaders, professionals, and wealth creators of the future. Excuse me. That's what it looks like in a nutshell. What we've also done is we have redefined the logo that captures the spirit of this vision and mission, changing with the times. So let me quickly go through that as well. Again, let me share the screen. Okay, can you see my screen now? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see. We can see. Yeah.
Okay. This was the old logo, and the new logo is a little more colorful and vibrant. We approved this last week in the managing committee meeting. Now, if you look at this, it's inspired. The main inspiration behind this logo is the picture that first comes to mind when you think about Krishna, and that's the Krishna Puram against the backdrop of Varkanathan temple. So if you look at the logo, these are two elephants facing each other. These are the tusks, and that's the roof, the gable end of the Mukappu, as we call it in Malayalam, of the temple, and the roof of the temple. And if you look at it closely, you can see the letters TMA in it as well. There's an invisible T here, the white space. There's an M here, which is the two elephants facing each other, and the whole thing looks like an A. So that's the idea behind the logo. That's it. I won't take too much time. We stop sharing my screen. Over to you.
Yeah, go ahead with our formal vote of thanks.
Yes. I'll be quick with the vote of thanks as well. First of all, I want to thank Vinod for the conduct of this whole webinar. Next, I want to thank the chief guest of the day, Joseph. He has taken pain to deliver the webinar. Why I say he has taken pain is because, first of all, he researched about TMA. When I spoke to him on Sunday, he said he had gone to the TMA website, he watched a couple of webinars to see how it goes. He looked at the vision and mission statements of TMA, and then he incorporated all that into the webinar today. That's the first point. The second point is it's about 7 o'clock in the morning, Joseph. We started at 6 o'clock in the morning, right? So personally, I wouldn't have if somebody asked me to do a webinar at 6 o'clock in the morning. So that's the second thing. The third thing is he was in the middle of finalizing the budget for Wescom for next year in the last few weeks. So I'm sure he burned his midnight oil for that. It's a very stressful time in the year, so I know I've experienced that. And in the middle of all that, he found time to prepare for the TMA webinar and deliver this. So thanks, Joseph. Thanks a ton for that. I would also like to thank all the office bearers of TMA, the past presidents, and everyone in the audience. Thank you. Have a good night. And Joseph, you have a great day ahead.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity. As I said, for me, Trishur has a personal connection. That's where my father started his humble beginnings for a successful life for himself and his family. So fond memories of Trishur. Happy to be here. Glad to know that an organization like TMA. So kudos to all the members, all the leaders of TMA for being amazing and giving back to the society. And I hopefully, as I said, during my visits in India, hopefully I'll get an opportunity to meet some of you in person and discuss about topics that innovate and excite us and get us to the future. So thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
You too, Joseph.
So meeting is adjourned. Have a great evening. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.